Welcome to Table Tennis Philosophy. All right, what we're talking about today is what about the situation where you're getting conflicting information? Maybe you've got two coaches. A lot of people tell you that's a bad idea. You want to have one coach who's giving your primary coach for sure, that's giving you the direction and setting up your training plans and all that kind of thing. But a lot of people do have at least another coach that they're getting some information, or maybe they're just getting information from different players and they're giving them conflicting information. I personally have no problem with any of my students getting lessons from other coaches. I figure that it's going to be a little different perspective. Maybe the other coach might be able to get through in a way that I couldn't, and perhaps I could contribute in ways that other coaches can't. Unfortunately, you have a lot of table tennis coaches who feel like that they kind of have the monopoly on table tennis knowledge and everybody else is wrong, or anything that goes against exactly what they're saying is wrong. And it's easy to get kind of locked into what you feel is the right way to train and the right way to teach table tennis and the right way to look at it. And I personally have drawn from a number of different coaches, and one of the things that's been helpful is to find out that they don't always emphasize the same things. That's a big part of it. Is for instance, you can get two coaches that will say things that appear to conflict, but maybe if you get the right context, they don't conflict nearly as much as you would think. I'll give you an example. I recently looked at some videos of a coach who was just saying how bad it is for any table tennis player to use anything other than maximum sponge on their racket, and that it's only going to hurt your game in the long run. You'll be behind, and it was just a really strong point that anybody that would emphasize, that would recommend thin sponge on any kind of racket was just wrong. And of course, that's in direct conflict with what I say, which it would appear to be that way. But in fact, if you look at the context of some of this, it's not as opposite as you would think. And that's where you sometimes have to figure out what advice to take. In this situation, I don't think the other coach is wrong. If you want to be a good offensive player, then you would probably want to go to thick sponge, maybe not maximum, but you certainly wouldn't want to go to thin sponge and stay there. And so I don't necessarily think that advice is totally wrong. It does depend a little bit how often a person is training. Are they, I think there might be a little bit more to it. The reason that I emphasize thin sponge, it has a lot to do with when a player is starting out learning. Let's just take a situation where a player perhaps is just beginning, and really just a raw beginner table tennis player. I wouldn't recommend the thickest sponge starting out. In fact, I've had good success recommending sometimes really super thin sponge. Even had a player who was using a racket that was very nearly anti-spin, and it would seem like the worst possible racket to use. And I would say that you don't want to stay with those rackets unless the player is destined to be a defensive player and use anti or pips or something like that. But personally, I found that you could use that thin sponge. It might just be a month or two. I had one player who I started off with extremely thin sponge, used it for 6 months, and then and really wasn't training a lot. And the transition to maximum sponge turned out to be extremely easy, no problem. And in fact, his strokes, I believe, were better because he had felt the ball and wasn't wasn't hitting as hard as perhaps he will as he gets to be older and be a better player. So the point is, it often appears that you're going to get conflicting advice, and sometimes there are real conflicts, really different approaches to table tennis, and in the end, it's going to be up to the player. You've got to figure out what makes sense to you. Do you totally buy into what one coach says? And sometimes I've had situations where a player had the same coach for a couple of years and had just felt like they just not progressing as a total player, although some parts of their game were improving greatly. And at that point, ended up coming to me and had a different approach, and in the end, I think got to become a more complete player a lot quicker than had he stayed with that initial coach. And so it's never bad to get a second opinion, and sometimes the opinions are not as much in conflict as you might think. So I would say keep in mind, get the best information you can, but in the end, it's up to you. So, all right, by the way, it's Christmas Eve, time to do a video, but Merry Christmas to everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your comments, by the way.